Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next session, writing a competitive personal statement or scholarship essay. And I'd like to introduce Kelsey from University of Wisconsin Lacrosse, who will discuss this issue. Kelsey, you can go ahead. Please remember that at the end of the presentation, we will have time for Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to text it on the platform, and Kelsey will answer your questions. Go ahead, Kelsey.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it. Again, my name is Kelsey Jones. I am the International Admissions Counselor here at the University of Wisconsin Lacrosse. Thanks for joining me today. I have a great topic for you. I know a lot of you are going through the process right now of either applying to schools or you've already applied and you're applying for scholarships. And a lot of that process is going to deal with some type of essay or personal statement. And so I'm going to help you with some tips and tricks to really fine tuning that so that it can be the most outstanding essay or personal statement you've ever written. Hopefully you take a lot away from this session. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you all. Be able to see that here. So again, writing your personal statement, again, this is super important. You can really apply this to not only the admissions process, scholarship essays, but your future, when you're applying for jobs and you need to write a personal statement, or you're creating a portfolio or just essays. These are good writing skills that you'll need to be able to possess in a lot of different avenues. So of course, I always like to start out, what is a personal statement? What is the definition? So Cambridge describes it as a short piece of writing about yourself and your interest that forms part of a university application, right? Now, what's important to note about this is that the piece that says writing about yourself, that is why it is called a personal statement. This is a piece where we really get to know more about you. I can see a lot of things in your application, through your transcripts, through your test scores. I can see a lot of things. I can see how great of a student you are. But what I don't really get to see or get to learn is more about you as a person. And so people in my position or other positions, when we're reading personal statements or essays, we really want to know more about you, what makes you unique, how creative you are, how much of a fit you can be in different ways. And so that's what's important to showcase in a personal statement, right? So again, American universities, they use this as an opportunity to get more insight into your personality. That's one of the main things there. It's because I want to know you. I want to know why you're applying, who you are, how you can add to our university, right? Is the institution or student a good fit? A lot of times we talk about a student is choosing our university, right? You want to know if we're a good fit for you, but we also are trying to get a good understanding if you're a good fit for our university as well. Of course, I always tell students it's usually, especially for students coming straight from high school, we know that you're coming from high school. You may not be the most mature in your life yet, but we do expect a level of maturity from all of our student applicants. And so this is another great way to showcase that as well, right? And then of course, will the student be an asset or a liability? All of our universities, we're looking for students to add to our university. We're looking for assets, not liabilities. And so the personal statement is another way for us to target that, right? And then of course, utilize the personal statement as a way to showcase or display your creativity, your critical thinking skills, and of course, your writing ability. So, general tips. When you're writing the personal statement, you're starting out, one of the first things you need to do is read the prompt, right? Usually these personal statements come with some type of prompt, and you want to read that prompt. And if it's asking you a question, make sure to answer the question and answer it in the space allowed. A lot of personal statements will give you a word limit or a page limit or whatever. This is on purpose. This is to not only showcase that you can answer the question thoroughly, but also do it in a precise manner, right? Because a lot of times we can get a topic on something and we can write for days and days, but we want to see how precise you can be in your writing when we ask these questions. And usually the questions we are asking, we're asking them for a specific reason. So always make sure to answer the question when you're doing that. Tailor your response to the university or program to which you're applying, right? If you're applying for a specific university or applying for a particular scholarship, right? Make sure you're tailoring your response to that. I work for the University of Wisconsin Lacrosse. I don't work for the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I don't work for Harvard. So I don't want to see anything about those universities on the personal statement if you're applying to my university, right? Don't address me as that because I don't work there. Not only does it shows that you've taken the time to proofread, but also that you're serious about university and that you've done some specific research on our university or program. Be honest. There's no reason to lie on these things, right? Right. This is an opportunity to showcase yourself, your character, your values, and things of that nature in your personality, right? And one of those values we want to see is honesty, right? If you've had struggles through your life, feel free to address that. But there's no reason to lie about anything on these personal statements. They're not the end of the world. They're just one small step of the journey, right? So there's no reason to lie. Be honest on these things. Concentrate on the first paragraph, right? I always like to ask this. If you're here, a lot of you probably like to watch movies. I love to watch horror movies and action movies. But two things about those type of movies that's important. If within the first 15 minutes, I'm not entertained, I'm probably going to turn it off, right? If you think the same way, think about that in terms of your personal statement. If I'm reading a personal statement and I'm not hooked or I'm not engaged, if I'm not really paying attention after that first paragraph, I've probably switched my brain off and I'm not paying attention to the rest of the statement or not nearly as closely, right? So think about that when you're writing the personal statement. Who is the audience? Who may the reader be? And how can I engage them within that very first paragraph? You want to catch their attention within that first paragraph. Another thing to make it important about the personal statement, a lot of times I hear from students, hey, my grades are not that great, but I can probably write a really good essay or get a few letters of recommendations and that'll just supersede it, right? Unfortunately not. You have to remember that the personal statement is a secondary factor of the application. Primary factors are grades, test scores, and things of that nature, your academics or merit. The secondary factors, what they can do, they won't override the primary factors, but what they can do is if a student is kind of on the borderline, right on the bubble, as we like to say, meaning their grades, are right there on the cusp, this will take them over the top to get that admission. Or if you're going for a competitive scholarship, right? This is something that may make you stand out against the competition, right? All of you have great grades and great test scores, right? An amazing personal statement will maybe help you stand out and put you over the top, over the competition for that particular essay or scholarship or anything like that. So that's something to consider when you're looking at the personal statement. This is a secondary factor that can help put you over the top in those types of situations. And then, of course, proofread. Cannot stress that enough, right? Actually, I was messaging with David earlier and I didn't proofread in one of my messages and used something wrong. It's so easy to make those mistakes and you want to make sure you take the time out to do that. You proofread, have a friend proofread, have another friend or a parent or a counselor or a teacher, anybody like that who can get a second or third set of eyes on it and really help make sure that it is mistake-free or as mistake-free as possible. And one thing I want to show you here is just how easy it is to make some of these mistakes. So I have 5 sentences. Each of them have a different mistake. So we're going to run through these really quickly just to showcase how easy it is to do that. So first one, after I graduate from high school, I plan to work for a nonprofit organization. I read that aloud, especially if I read it fast. It's really easy to miss the mistake, but the mistake is pretty easy to catch. Form here, right? It should be from, right? It's a simple misspelling. Literally all you did was change. If you flip the R and the O, now it's correct or incorrect, right? So really easy mistake to make. The next one may be a little bit easier. From the day on, Daniel was my best friend, right? That just sounds wrong when you're reading it. Pretty easy to spot and catch. But fried and the correct word friend, is only missing an N. Again, a really easy mistake to make, but can also easily be caught if you just proofread. It finally occurred to me that there was a shark in the water. Now, I read that and that sounds correct, right? I don't really hear anything wrong when I read that. But if you take a closer look, there's a pretty clear mistake here. There. That is the wrong there to use. That there is possessive. You should be using THERE in this particular sentence for it to be grammatically correct. Again, really easy to make that type of mistake. I want to immerse myself in the language. Now that sounds kind of correct, right? You read it fast, it rolls off the tongue nicely and everything like that. You know, when I read it out, it doesn't sound anything wrong. But if you take a closer look, even though it sounds correct, and I don't really see anything wrong with it, the problem is the word emerge is used incorrectly here. The correct phrase is, I want to immerse myself in the language, right? Again, emerge, immerse, you know, they sound very similar. It can be easy to make that mistake, especially if you're typing fast. And then finally, I spoke with the person that wrote the email. Now that sounds correct. I read it and it doesn't really seem like there's much wrong, but there's a small mistake here, right? That even though technically you could probably use that, more grammatically correct would be when you're addressing a person, to use the word who or whom, depending on how you're using it. So that should be changed there. Now, any one of these sentences on their own is really not that bad. But imagine if all 5 of these sentences were in the very first paragraph of a personal statement. It's not that these small mistakes are that bad, but it may showcase a pattern that the entire personal statement may be riddled with these small typos. And so my first thought is they probably didn't proofread. How serious are they taking this application and things of that nature? You don't want the reader or audience to get into that mindset with these easily correctable grammatical mistakes by just simply proofreading and having others proofread for you. So take the time out, make sure you do that. That can be important. What to include in a personal statement, right? So I've talked about kind of what a personal statement is, what needs to be in it to a degree, but these are some other things that you can certainly focus on when you're writing the personal statement. Because a lot of times I hear from students, I really just don't know what to write about. And so one thing you can write about is any type of leadership experience you've had, right? We like to see that from students. We like to see that even in their, academic or career so far, that they've showcased some type of leadership, whether that's like, the captain of the basketball team or the leader of a student organization or some type of thing you've done outside. Work or volunteer experience, another extracurricular that showcases, one, you can do something extra while still achieving great academics. You can still thrive academically while doing other things. Not only does it showcase your personality and what type of person you are, but it showcases you may be able to do the same thing successfully at our university as well. And that's what we like to see. We like to have global citizens on our campus, citizens that's going to do more than just be great in the classrooms, right? And so those are usually the ones we're looking for with these personal statements, especially when they're tied to scholarship dollars, right? So those are the things that you can certainly talk about. Any skills you possess or have developed, right? Think about this. And sometimes students struggle, right? It can be hard to talk about yourself, or really what we like to say, humble brags. But I like to brag on my roommate from college. He, back in the day, he was the #1 player in Minecraft. He was the #3 player in Call of Duty at the time. He won tons of college gaming tournaments before he got to college. And so actually a gaming company out of high school offered him a job for $120,000 starting out, just to be able to test their games and stuff like that. But he wanted to go to college. He wanted to learn to program. He wanted to learn to do those type of things. So he chose that route, but he needed money, right? And so he actually wrote an essay about how he was so good at video games, how he thought and processed information on such a fast level, which made him great at video games. The way he articulated that process is what really stood out to those reading the essay. And he was able to get a large, pretty much full ride scholarship from the computer science department based on that essay, because he talked about how he can articulate and thought about gaming processes and how he wants to utilize that in research for the department, right? That is a great way to say, okay, most people may look at, you're just really good at video games, but if you can take that skill and articulate it in a way that really is creative and stands out, there may be opportunities for scholarship dollars, or again, to be really advanced in some type of form or fashion. So think about the skills you possess. And if you are having trouble finding that, talk to the people that know you best. They may be able to give you some ideas on some of the things that you're great at that you may not be able to see on yourself. I know I struggle with that, but it's always great to have those in your corner who know much about you. Challenges you have overcome. This is also important, right? Especially if it's impacted your academic performance. This will be important because we can see that usually on the transcript. We can see that in various ways. And so I don't have to assume or guess. You can address that. Be open and honest. How did that happen? What was going on in your life that maybe have caused those challenges academically? And then how you overcame them. How you overcame them is what we really, really want to know, because we want to see that fighting spirit. We want to see that we know that people struggle. We know that, no one's perfect. Everyone has their troubles, but we want to see how you were able to overcome it, how you maybe have, saw the problem and sought the solution, right? That's what we're really looking for. Long-term goals or plan. It's okay if you don't know exactly what you want to do right away. But if you do, this is your opportunity to talk about that. Talk about how our university can help support you on your way to those long-term goals or plans. We love to see those things. We really, really do. And then, of course, why you want to attend our university/study your program, right? This is important. Again, talk specifically about our program. Talk specifically about our university. What helped made us stand out to you, and how we can help you get along to your long-term goals or plans. This can be important as well. I always tell students, when we're looking at the personal essay, usually the students that are being selected are the ones that are talking about why they'll be successful, how they'll contribute to the campus community, and of course, what makes them interesting and unique, right? I've seen tons of essays on different things, and these are some of the things that I don't like to see in the essays. So what are you to avoid? First and foremost, addressing a different university. If there's any typo you can leave or any type of proofreading you do, make sure that you're addressing the correct university, that you've at least changed that address to a different university if you're utilizing the same or the foundation of an essay for multiple universities. At least make sure that. I can't tell you enough. I can usually, if a student's done that, it's hard for me to take them seriously because I don't believe they're taking our university seriously, that they really, really want to be here. And so if it's against them and another student who is both in similar academic straits, I'm probably going to choose the other student if that's happened, right? Slow introductions. Remember, I talked about, we want to be engaged. We want to really focus on that first paragraph. So don't waste that first intro paragraph on a slow buildup, right? Go ahead, get straight to the point, really engage the reader in some form of fashion with creativity or critical thinking or anything like that. We don't want to be slow there. Recapping your life story. Again, this is about you, your personality, and things that may have happened in your life that have shaped who you are. But I don't need an entire rundown of your life story. I don't need to know, from the day you were born, and all the small little moments leading up to your college career. It's not that that's not important, but it's going to dominate your paper. You remember, you only have usually a couple of paragraphs to a page when it comes to these personal statements. And you usually need to touch on a few things. And so choose maybe one moment in life that really stood out to you and shaped your life, but don't, let that process dominate your paper because there's other things you may need to address. So that can be important as well. Lying. I always tell students, I once had a student who tried to tell me they really, really want to do track and field at a university because we're really high ranked there in Division III. And so they were saying like, oh, I won an Olympic gold medal and did this, that. And I was just like, they were really trying to, beef themselves up. And that, I appreciate that confidence to a degree, but it was clearly a lie. I can look up who won gold medals, and high school students can't participate in the Olympics. So it's one of those things that there was no reason to lie about that thing. I understand your interest. I understand you want to, but we can easily look those things up. And that includes anything about your application, right? No need to lie about certain things. Be honest, right? Because it showcases your personality and values when you're being honest in your personal statement. Plagiarism. A lot of students like to quote various authors. They like to include inspirational quotes and things of that nature in their paper, which is perfectly fine. Showcase those critical thinking, a little research, showcase a little bit more about yourself and what you value, but make sure to give the correct references or give proper due to those that read it first. If you are doing those type of things, plagiarism is never a good thing, and it's good practice because you definitely don't want to do that when you're here in college. Negativity, right? When it comes to negativity, you want to make sure that you are.
Kelsey, we have a few questions coming up from students,
Okay.
so let me know if you if you almost wrap up, so you can.
Yeah, no problem. Let me finish this one slide and we can get right to the questions. Right.
Okay.
So negativity, you don't want to be there. You never want to leave the reader feeling negative. We want to feel positive, so you want to make sure that you're there. Vagueness, remember to avoid that at all costs. You want to be precise and specific, right? Avoid cliches. Usually we've read thousands of these, right? So we don't want to read the same thing over and over and over again, right? So avoid those cliches. And of course, we know that sometimes students struggle to write these things and they want to add some fluff just to get to that word count or page count, but it's okay. You want to avoid writing things that do not contribute to the purpose of the statement. If you need help, seek out those that can help you, right? And so always remember this. You have to think about the personal statement as a elevator pitch. Elevator pitch is something you have like 60 seconds to talk about the most important information that you need to get across to convince somebody of something. Think about the personal statement as an elongated elevator pitch. You want to make the statement confident, interesting, and convincing to the reader so that we can get the most and really know about you as a person. And so now let's go ahead and get to the questions. I hope that that was interesting to you and that you were able to take some things away from that. Let's go ahead and get to some questions now as we have a few from David. Hey, David.
Kelsey, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask you a few of the questions that came in. I'm not gonna ask them in the order that they came in. I'm just gonna start by questions that is directly related to essays. And we have a question from Maria asking, what if she compares my university with my favorite drink and signed the university as my favorite drink receipt? I mean, I guess she's trying to be creative. I mean, give us your thoughts about that.
Yes, actually, that is great, right? That is definitely shows some creativity there. I actually had a student, and this really spoke to my biases as someone who loves to cook. She talked about how she attributed some of her life experiences to her favorite food or recipes. And so she was able to give examples of that and showcase various metaphors that she saw in her life and how she wants to apply that to her collegiate career, right? So really, really creative, really stood out to me. So if you can do something like that, that would really stand out. It's definitely something different that we like to see. So I definitely commend something like that if that's where you're thinking about going with an essay.
That's great. Thank you, Kelsey. And another quick question. You mentioned humble brag. Can you elaborate about what humble brag exactly?
So humble brag is definitely a colloquial slang term we like to say now. So humble brag just means like you're showing that confidence in yourself. You're showcasing the best parts of yourself, but doing so in a humble, non-arrogant type of way, right? And so don't be afraid to talk well about yourself. Really talk about all the great things you've done, but don't come across as arrogant or full of yourself in doing so. So it's kind of bragging in a balanced way. That's what I mean by humble brags and stuff like that. And so that's important because it showcases your confidence in yourself and that you value your achievements, but that you're not too big to continue to learn and continue to grow.
That's great. Thank you, Kelsey. I mean, I think we all learned something new today. I have two more questions coming here. One asks, what they can learn at the school, and the other question is, what kind of the admission requirements. So I want to just share the screen really quick, my screen, so I can show students where they can find the information. So give me 1 second. So you can see now that in order to kind of find out what the admission requirement for lacrosse that you can find on ApplyWave. You can also see scholarship requirement, academic merit, and automatic consideration. I mean, do you want to quickly just talk about it, Kelsey?
Yeah, so essentially, most of our students are at, you see the GPA requirement, most of our students are at a 3.0 or higher. We do accept students a little bit lower. And then we look at the personal statement, we look at things like that to maybe take them over the top and say, okay, I think they'll be a great student. Let's go ahead and admit them. But you need to be at least at a 3.0 or higher to be considered for scholarships. For students who are required to do any of the English proficiency, so you'll see TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, Test of English, PTE. Those are our minimum scores. Combine that with the GPA for admission. And if you're, like I said, you have a 3.0, you're automatically considered for one of these scholarships. You still have to apply for them, but it gets you consideration for them to receive the scholarship application. So once you apply, you need to do that. The key about applying, and you're working with ApplyWave to do this, you need to apply, especially if, say, if you're applying for fall of 2022, you need to apply within the next month. Our scholarship deadlines are February 1st of every year, but you have to be admitted to the university. So if you can get me everything by December 15th, meeting applying through ApplyWave, we can get you admitted pretty quickly and still have some time to apply for all the scholarship opportunities that may be available.
Thank you, Kelsey. So I'm just going to add and answer another question about what programs are available. So all the programs, again, listed on ApplyWave. So if you guys going to go on ApplyWave, you have everything is listed. And of course, if you have any questions, you know, you can go ahead and feel free to connect with Kelsey on the platform. Let me check if there's any other questions. No, if there's no, I don't see any other questions coming in right now. So I'm about to end this session. Oh, there is a coming questions like, is it better to write a longer or a shorter essay?
It's always, if you have to go over, it's better to go over by a little bit. For instance, if it's a page, if you write a page and maybe a paragraph or your last paragraph spills over into the other page, that's fine. We never, if it's right within a page or we expect a page or a couple of paragraphs, we never want to go shorter than that, right? Because it showcases that you weren't able to fill that out. It's okay to go over by a little bit, but you don't want to go over by too much. So I would prefer a student to spill over into the next page while trying to answer the question thoroughly, as opposed to stop much shorter than the page and not answer the question, because I know they could have done a bit more.
Okay. So thank you very much again, Kelsey, for all the information. It was really, really great to learn all those things. So everybody who's watching right now, as I said, you know, you can contact Kelsey. If you have any questions, you can text him. And as I said, you can find information on ApplyWave and make and start the application over there. And our team will take it from there along with Kelsey. So thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you all. Appreciate attending my session.
Thank you. Bye-bye.